Hey, I'm Dr. Sam Ellis. I'm a board-certified dermatologist and the founder of Prequel. I am so excited to introduce you to our first sunscreen, Sun Barrier. Sun Barrier is a broad-spectrum mineral sunscreen with SPF 50 and PA++++. As a dermatologist, you knew I was going to have a sunscreen in Prequel's lineup, and it was so important that it was one of the very first products we launched with. As a dermatologist, I cannot think of one type or product that I recommend more on a daily basis than sunscreen. It is truly something that every single person needs in their routine. I think for a long time, a lot of people talked about sunscreen as a way to protect against skin cancer, which of course, it is so important to protect against skin cancer, including other sun-safe practices like staying in the shade and wearing sun protective clothing. But the other thing I see on a daily basis as a medical dermatologist, in addition to being a cosmetic dermatologist, is the fact that sun can cause all of these other concerns, like premature skin aging, fine lines, wrinkles, hyperpigmentation, flares of melasma, and these are all things that can benefit from daily sun protection with sunscreen. Despite sunscreen being literally the most important thing that someone can incorporate into their skincare routine, I still find that a lot of my patients and friends and even family members still struggle to have it as part of their routine. And I think a lot of that has to do with not finding a sunscreen that they love or want to apply, or also just not fully understanding the importance of daily sun protection as a habit. If you have followed me on my social channels or are my patient, you know that I am a true sunscreen connoisseur. I have literally tried hundreds of sunscreens in my lifetime, and there are some that I love, there are some I despise, there are some that make me go like, meh, I would use it, but it's not my favorite. And the reality is, sunscreen is not a one-size-fits-all type of product. I think that it can depend on your mood, it can depend on your skin type, your skin tone, the other skin conditions that you may struggle with, and picking a sunscreen is such a personal choice. The reason I'm talking about this is because we are launching with a mineral sunscreen, but that is not the only sunscreen that Prequel is developing. Because everyone's going to like something a little bit different in their sunscreen, I knew with developing Prequel, we were going to want many different sunscreens. That is super important to me, to have a full suite of sunscreens. And what I didn't know is how long it takes to develop sunscreen. And these have been in the works for such a long time. And we have been tweaking, altering, trying to find the perfect formulas that I would be so proud of as a dermatologist and as a skincare lover to put forward toward the public. And you might be wondering, well, why is she launching with a mineral sunscreen? Is there something wrong with chemical sunscreen? Is she prioritizing one sunscreen versus the other? Absolutely not. We are actually developing a chemical and mineral sunscreen in tandem with one another. Not only are sunscreens tricky to develop, but as a dermatologist, if I was going to put out a sunscreen formula, it truly needs to be exceptional. And our mineral sunscreen formula got there first. It won this race. Ultimately, my goal for Prequel is to create an entire platform of sunscreens where every single person can find a sunscreen that they absolutely love and, most importantly, will wear every single day. So like I mentioned before, Sun Barrier is a mineral sunscreen. And when we are thinking about mineral sunscreens, that means that the UV filters are either zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, or some combination of both of those. In this case, this is a non-nano zinc oxide sunscreen. So something I always talk about with sunscreens is that they should be broad spectrum, meaning that they protect you not only from UVB radiation, which is the kind of radiation that often gives you an immediate sunburn or really induces skin cancer, as well as UVA radiation, which are those longer wavelengths of rays that can lead to premature skin aging, wrinkling, all the other things that we don't want to happen with our skin. A lot of people are under the impression that mineral sunscreens, which are also referred to as physical sunscreens, work exclusively by reflecting UV rays off the skin. And they do in part work like that, but the main way that UV filters work, physical and chemical, is that they absorb UV radiation and disperse it so that it never causes damage to your skin cells. I use both chemical and mineral sunscreens in my day-to-day sun protection, but there are a lot of people out there who really do prefer a mineral sunscreen for various reasons. So some people find chemical sunscreens or the UV filters found in chemical sunscreens to be a bit more irritating for their skin. So people who have conditions like rosacea or even acne, or just find their skin to be a bit more sensitive, often will prefer a mineral sunscreen. The other thing is zinc, which is in mineral sunscreens, has this soothing component. So people whose skin is irritated or might be post-procedure from like a chemical peel or laser, for example, may also have a preference for that mineral sunscreen for almost that like healing, soothing ability. I also find, and this is true of me as well, that sometimes when you put chemical sunscreens too close to the eyes, you can get a little bit of eye sting. And I just find with mineral sunscreens in general, and specifically with Sun Barrier, there's just no eye irritation involved. I also really wanted to create a sunscreen that people not only felt comfortable using on themselves, but also on their kids or their infants. And I'll be the first person to tell you as a dermatologist that it is not mandatory to use mineral sunscreen on your kids or use mineral sunscreen when you're pregnant, for example, but I do have lots of patients and followers who just have a preference for mineral sunscreen during those sort of uncertain times in their life or on their precious loved ones, and so I think having a mineral sunscreen that everyone could feel comfortable using was super important. Well, let's talk about what's actually inside the sun barrier tube, because this formula is just incredible. The thing that I really love about sun barrier is just how lightweight it is. Like, compared to a lot of mineral sunscreens that I've used and tested and even spoken about in the past, it just applies so effortlessly, and it has this natural radiant finish that isn't really dewy, and it's not greasy, it's not shiny, but still looks luminous on the skin. The other thing that's tricky about mineral sunscreens, especially ones that are formulated with zinc, is sometimes zinc can be a bit drying. So I really like that this formula is very comfortable on the skin, not just when you put it on, but as it wears throughout the day. One thing I did want to note though is because this is formulated with zinc, which in its raw material form is literally a white powder, there is always going to be potential for a white cast with a sunscreen that contains zinc oxide. This is a semi-sheer, semi-transparent formula, which is truly invisible on my skin, but is not going to work for people with deep or more melanated skin. And I wanted to be upfront with that because I think it's so important that people understand what kind of skincare they're using and what has the potential to work for them and what doesn't have the potential to work for them. My goal with Prequel is to be very candid and upfront with the formulas, so you can really understand what's going to work for you and what might not work for you, and how to choose the best products for your skin. That's my whole role as a dermatologist and why I even started on social media in the first place. We did add a little bit of a peachy hue to this sunscreen to help neutralize some of that white cast, but again, that's not going to work for every single skin tone. And like I mentioned earlier, Prequel is going to have many sunscreens so that every single person can find a sunscreen that they absolutely love. For those who prefer a mineral sunscreen, Sun Barrier is for you. I cannot tell you how picky I am with sunscreen, particularly mineral sunscreens, and this one is just, I'm like very proud to launch this. What makes Sun Barrier a little bit unique is the fact that this formula has something called a lamellar phase emulsion, which essentially mimics the intercellular fats or lipids that exist in our own skin. So this is called Sun Barrier, not just because it is a barrier from the sun that protects your skin, but also because it enhances the health of your own skin barrier. And with all Prequel products, skin barrier health is the #1 priority. In addition to that unique formula technology, Sun Barrier is also formulated with antioxidants. And as I've discussed so many times, antioxidants really help enhance the protection that your sunscreen already offers you. It's another way that you are protecting your skin against UV damage, and they really work in harmony with your UV filters to make your sunscreen more effective. So everyone applies their sunscreen a little bit differently, but I'll kind of explain to you how I like to use Sun Barrier. So most importantly, sunscreen, no matter what you're using, needs to be the last step in your skincare routine. So in the morning, after you cleanse and apply any serums or other products, including moisturizer, sunscreen is the final step. The other thing that is key, like I cannot stress this enough, when you are applying sunscreen, you need to apply the proper amount. A dab here and a dab there is not going to protect you. It's estimated that about 1/4 teaspoon is needed to coat your face. So if you are not using enough sunscreen, you're not getting the full SPF or the full protection that the product offers. Generally with mineral sunscreen, I like to apply it in 2 layers. Mineral sunscreens tend to be a little bit thicker, and so you want to be able to warm them up and work them into the skin. So I will apply about half the amount that I think I need to my entire face, let it set down for a few seconds, and then go in with that second layer. And then I let everything sit and set up for 15 minutes before I give my final impressions. Once the sunscreen has fully dried down, then I will go in with any makeup that I want to wear for the day. And can I just say, this is so beautiful under makeup. I think that little bit of a radiance really comes through and sort of gives you this like lit from within without looking shiny. And this is not just for your face. Sunscreen should be applied to any areas that are consistently exposed to the sun. So bring this onto your neck, your chest, your ears, everything needs protection. And one question I commonly get about sunscreens is this okay if I have acne? Is this okay if I have rosacea or eczema? Yes, this sunscreen was formulated with all of those skin conditions in mind. This is fragrance-free, hypoallergenic, allergy tested, really ideal for anyone with sensitive skin. For those of you who have been asking Prequel for mineral sunscreen, Sun Barrier is for you, and this is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the sunscreens that Prequel is going to offer. I cannot wait for you guys to try Sun Barrier. You can find it at prequelskin.com. And I just want to say thank you so much for your support of Prequel. The reception has been overwhelming and so warm, and I cannot wait to create more amazing skincare for you.